In this video, we will be taking a closer look at all the cool details in Arcane Act 1 you probably have missed. I certainly did miss a lot of these things myself, but after watching all the episodes 4 times with 0.5x speed, I hate myself. I have found some new stuff that might be interesting and you probably missed. I will also be doing a lot of my own hyper analysis and theories along the way, since I think it's fun to try analyzing every single tiny little detail Fortiche and Riot Games has left for us. Guys, okay? I swear that I'm not turning into Necrit. I'm just talking about arcane lore and Easter eggs with a green screen behind me. Well, at least I have a bigger mic. The show starts with Mel's armor glowing, indicating she survived the blast, all thanks to her armor that we still have no clue what it's made of. It's most likely either going to be the origin story of Sonia's hourglass, since Ambessa is originally from Shurima, we know this thanks to the music video Blood, Sweat and Tears, and the item originates from there as well. Or then it's because Ambessa is the chosen of the wolf and she and Mel are protected by Kindred. We also know that fact from the music video. And the Chosen of the Wolf would technically mean she has Kindred's ult from League of Legends. Kinda OP if you ask me. This is also why Jace wasn't hurt in the blast caused by Jinx, because she and Mel were hugging. You can see Jinx's rocket at the bottom of the screen, which technically doesn't make any sense since it was, well, a rocket and it should have blown up, but I guess it's just an artistic freedom to show how the previous season ended. Balbog, the counselor, got literally decapitated. Arcane Season 1 and Arcane Season 2 both started with someone's parent dying. Season 1 it was Powder and Violet, and now it's Caitlyn. You can see Victor's skeleton in the impact frame when he gets fused with the hex core, which is kinda fucking metal, not gonna lie. The explosion also contains the same kinda web-like pattern we see with anything Arcane related. None of the characters have their tattoo in the intro segment. Only Vi has her Vi tattoo on her face, but she smudged it off. So it really isn't a tattoo. I'm not sure what the metaphor here is supposed to be or what it means, but people are basically theorizing it's supposed to show them kinda naked, like they would be in a very vulnerable state. Echo's shadow is a clock that ticks, heading towards his Z drive and the theme with time. You can see Ambessa's face for a split second after Victor is showed. This is one of the glitched frames that are different in every single intro. Ambessa is holding a Black Rose, referring to the Black Rose organization from Noxus in League lore that is led by LeBlanc herself. This is just me theorizing, but we can see the Black Rose getting split by the beam of light, and in the next segment we can see the same beam of light on Mel's face, and her being surrounded by a bunch of hands, which could indicate Mel being pulled by multiple forces like Black Rose, her mother and even Piltover Council to do as they say. Next, we have Caitlyn and Vi looking at each other with a very interesting color choice in the background. Then we have a scene of them pushing each other. Foreshadowing ain't subtle with this one if you have seen episode 3. For one frame, you can see the badge Caitlyn is going to give Vi in episode 1. This is also one of the glitched frames I was talking about earlier. Every episode should have 3 of them. Caitlyn's shadow on the wall portrays that the crown she will now have to carry after her mother died will be heavy. Get it? Like the episode name. It's almost even demonic-like, which would imply that the responsibility is going to corrupt her. Echo jumping over the light is referring to his fight against Jinx on the Bridge of Progress. He also goes backwards in the intro, again referring to his theme with time. Mel screaming all the hands away and then slowly and peacefully looking at the Black Rose on the couch her mother used to sit on. This might imply that Mel beats Black Rose and she has to take on her mother's position. Jace being blinded by a light that 10 in the next scene turns into the Arcane logo could imply that the consequences him and Victor had while working with Hextech and Arcane are indeed blinding. You can see Vi in the corner of the funeral scene where Caitlyn's mother is being taken away. The only colors you can see in the funeral scene are the colors violet and pink, and the only characters that are colored are Caitlyn, her mother and Vi. I wonder who's also related to the colors violet, pink, and whose name used to be Violet. Also, did you know that this funeral scene was hand-drawn with charcoal? Now, that is some insane dedication by the people at Fortiche to convey a cool funeral scene. When Mel says, "I don't know how we'll face this crisis without her," camera pans behind the broken seat of Caitlyn's mother and focus on her in the middle, foreshadowing Caitlyn taking her place. When Mel says, I draw the line at Hextech, the next scene shows the impact of Hextech by literally drawing a line on the ground, showing how much damage it can do. Ambessa looks at her bodyguard that I forgot the name of to start the plan that we will see in episode 3. If you look at the ground where Mel was standing when the explosion happened, you can see that there's a circular area that is completely intact and not cracked, which got protected by her armor that is again either the whole Zonia's theory, Solari theory, or her being the chosen of the wolf like her mother. I mean, Kindred's ult is circular, so... Also, how is nobody in the show talking about the fact that this odd looking area on the ground took no damage in the explosion? We can see the simplified version of the Bilgewater emblem in the letters Caitlyn got for her mother's death. Could possibly be a house living in Bilgewater. We can also see 2 other house emblems in the letters, but I really don't know what regions they could be referring to. Maybe Freljord and Shurima? I'm not sure. We can see another house emblem on the next scene. Again, no idea what that region is from, but it looks a lot like Ionia. Also, the emblem has M and G on it. Mundo Gaming? This one looks like it's from a house in Piltover though, with all the wrenches and stuff. And the one that Caitlyn opens is the invite to the memorial event for the counselors. Black representing death, of course. Caitlyn and Vi are nicely split between Piltover and so on. Holy shit, is that a motherfucking Lillia reference? The Arcane is reacting to living organism the same way magnetic ferrofluid reacts to magnets. I assume they use that as a reference. The violet flower petals in Caitlyn's dream sequence die when they hit the ground. And I actually want to talk about my own theory about this segment in a later part of this video. So keep on watching if you want to know that. You can see Caitlyn's breath just like you could see it in her flashbacks in Act 2. The wind chime and the contraption spins faster and faster as she talks about how her head is spinning when talking about Jinx. We can also see both Jinx and Caitlyn's mother when she talks about them, but not Vi. We actually haven't seen what Caitlyn sees Vi as from her POV yet. Caitlyn is wearing the badge she got from the council, and so does Chase. Holy shit, another Lillia reference! The flags in the background have a picture of Charmin 4. And the reasoning to that is actually kind of funny, I will be talking about it later on as well. We can see the shadow of the blimp that we'll be seeing later on in the attack. The goon's tattoo is the symbol of Renee's gang. She also has part of the emblem on her neck. When Gembaron's goon is about to attack Mel, her armor starts glowing again, which would mean that the armor actually senses danger and doesn't just block it. So Mel is basically the Spider-Man of Arcane. The goon also just hits Mel and doesn't assassinate her. Later on, we know it's because the whole attack was planned by Ambessa, and she probably told the Gembaron to not kill her daughter. Also, I wanna point out that this would mean that Mel's armor only protects her from either death or just blasts and magic and not, well, punches. Rennie, the Gembaron whose child Jace killed in Season 1, is actually holding the Chempunk Chainsword item from League of Legends. Also, Turbo Chemtank. Rennie lost a tooth in the fight against Jace. Also, just a cool little detail, but I love the fact how the sweat and spit actually stay on the camera like it would be a physical element in the shot. Jace almost dying while being framed with all the dead counselors. Nice touch, I like it. In this sequence, all of Caitlyn's shots are headshots, and they're actually even hitting the same bullet hole every single time. But also, this is unrealistic. Because she can only get a headshot every 5 auto attack, okay? Everybody knows this. This child's mother died in the attack. They were shown previously when they were going to the memorial event. They were also shown in the Caitlyn's mother's funeral scene. These 3 paintings basically show Caitlyn's mother roots that are actually from Ionia, as you can see from the bow and the trees in the background. I'm not sure if it's her in all 3 pictures or if they're her mom and grandma, but I would assume it's her since the person in the pictures is getting older in each painting. Also, the frames are evolving according to the region, which is pretty cool. Jungle Camp Raptor from League of Legends as a hunting trophy. Caitlyn looking at her mother's pictures and secrets, which reveal that her mother saved the Undercity from a factory smoke called Grey, that would kill people and make them hallucinate, as we learn to know in episode 3. The eyes in the smoke are actually the goggles from people who have protective masks, and people are just hallucinating them as monsters. This scene is also foreshadowing what's going to happen in episode 3, because the monster in the grey smoke is actually her. When the counselors are talking about someone helping from the inside, the very next scene pans to Ambessa. Talk about a subtle foreshadowing. Caitlyn finally gets her in-game weapon, although it's slightly different in Arcane, but it has the same scope mechanism. The Arcane inside of Victor is waking up, which we can see from the spoon moving closer to him. In the end scene, Singe put up a trap with a raptor on top of the bear trap that then snapped when a merc wolf tried to eat it. Oh yeah, also another chunk gap. This opening sequence is all happening in Jinx's head because later on in the episode we can see Jinx putting Silco underwater where the water isn't that deep. In this episode's intro sequence we can also see a few unique glitched frames that are connected to the episode. We can see a Jinx wanted poster, Isha and the Enforcer squad. All Game Baron Cross's goons have numbers on their heads that symbolize the gang being a surveillance company. That's why Cross has a tattoo of an old telephone on his forehead. And the numbers on the goons are the numbers on a telephone. All Game Baron Margot's goons have latex suits on because she is running a sex service in Zone. There are a bunch of Firelight graffitis on top of the Jinx posters. Henot, the henchman of Smite, almost gets stabbed in the eye when they're driving in the wagon. As I stated before, the Grey is causing people to hallucinate, and when Henot is told to go in first to the Grey-filled goon lair of Margot, he starts hallucinating as well. And this right here is actually Caitlyn or one of the other enforcers. Also, this comes straight from Kristen Link, the showrunner of Arcane. Apparently, the reason why there are so many valves all over Margot's body is because she can actually tighten her skin and make herself look much younger than she is. Broke at the Zone facelift, what the fuck? Sevika left Jinx's original plan to blow up the console on the table as we can see it was there in Season 1, Episode 9. Jinx lands on the table the same way she did when Silco was still alive and needed to have his eye injection shot. You can see Smitch's hat poking behind the trash can when they are about to attack Jinx. The Arcane is talking to Victor with Sky's voice, and again, just a theory, this might be the case of Arcane trying to use Victor for something later on, and is trying to lure Victor by showing images of Sky and also using her voice to talk to him. Sky is posing next to the blueprints of Hextech weapons, which the use Victor was highly against. Further proving the point that Arcane wants Victor to stay away from Chase for whatever plan it has. Also, yes, that is Sky's journal from Season 1. At the Firelight layer, Heimerdinger is playing around with his in-game turret. In the scene where Echo and Heimer are sneaking into the lab, Heimer says Brambleback has left the jungle, which, if you have played any League, is impossible. So I guess in this case it would mean that the guard has left their post. Shaking my head, Arcane is now ruining how League of Legends works. When Heimer is talking to Chase about breaking into the lab, this line right here is of course referring to him and Victor breaking into the lab in Season 1. Also, I don't really want to nitpick, but how did Heimer not realize after breaking in, talking to Chase and drinking tea that there's a big ass arcane matter filled silhouette of a man in the middle of the room, especially when he was looking at it the whole time. In this scene with Victor, we can see the Zonites praying to Janna from League of Legends, who is a wind spirit who protected Zone from the Grey. We actually hear about this from Jinx in episode 3. A thing I just also realized is that Victor is glowing, and this usually only happens whenever the Arcane is trying to show Victor something or it's talking to Victor. This is such a cool framing for Victor here, because the mural in the background is making him look like a painting of a saint, or even Jesus himself. Fortiche is really trying to win the foreshadowing contest against Breaking Bad, aren't they? In this scene, where Arcane is talking to Victor and showing footprints, Victor starts glowing again faintly. I wanna add this one for the non-League players, but this scene right here, where Jinx is making Sevika's arm from the random parts in the arcade, is an actual playable game mode inside of League of Legends client, and all the parts she brings are the actual parts you need to get in the minigame. That is such a cool detail from Riot, not gonna lie. In the scene where all the grey smoke is filling the building, you can see the face of a monster. And that monster looks extremely similar to Fiddlesticks. Maybe it's to symbolize how demonic using the grey against Zonites is. And here we can see the hallucinations again that are indeed the enforcers inside the grey. This is actually the first time Jinx sees Y in an enforcer outfit, and that is the reason why she is so shocked. This is also the only time in Act 1 that Jinx is visually hallucinating something, unlike in Season 1 where she would be hallucinating a lot. Obvious one again, but yes, those are Glagger's glasses, and this is where we finally know why and where Vi got her iconic League of Legends glasses from. Also, holy fucking shit, a rage-filled Caitlyn is definitely nightmare material. In the background, we can actually see Maddie looking at Step, worrying about Caitlyn's declining mental health. This goon's punching arm is actually charged by Chemtech, as we can see him charging his hand in the background. Hina throws away Jinx's grenade that actually helps her later on to defeat Smeech's goons. I've seen a lot of people already mention this, but when Smeech is trying to scare Jinx with his needle finger, she actually moves closer towards the needle, and Smeech has to pull back the needle so he wouldn't poke her eye out. This scene just really shows how fucked up in the head Jinx is. Here we can see the shimmer activating in Jinx, which, if you didn't know, is her passive in League of Legends. That gives her movement speed and attack speed. All of Smeech's goons are wearing top hats because he is running a black market for cosmetic and physical augments, making him and his team very rich people, hence the top hats. You can also see all the charges that the goon was using in his punch arm. Smeech's mechanical arm is spinning so fast he has to keep it steady with his other hand. Jinx's gun that Sevika shoots with smudges the camera, which is just a cool little detail that kinda grounds the virtual camera as a real element. Sevika reveals her arm the exact same way she did in Season 1. Jinx trips on a piece of squid that Smeech's goon dropped earlier in the scene, and that almost resulted in her getting hit by the goon. The goon's punch was so strong it actually cracked a hole in the wall. Isha throws the same grenade Hina threw away in the scene prior that also allows Jinx to win against the goon. Jinx finger guns at Isha, which is just her saying thank you for saving her life, and Isha smirks at her. I for the longest time watching this series thought that Isha would be just one of Jinx's hallucinations, kinda like a version of her inner child that she sees as a little child. But I think that's still actually the case here, minus the hallucinations, as we know later on. Isha in this series is going to be the physical manifestations of Jinx's inner child that she will try to take care of for the rest of the series, as Vander and Silco did for her. I don't think this relationship will have a happy ending though, as it wasn't very happy with Vander or Silco either. Smeech's augments allow him to turn his head 180 degrees, which would mean his whole body, except his head, is augmented. Sevika's mechanical gambling arm is also her ability in TFT, which is a pretty cool link between the medias. This combination of the slot machine symbols also shows that the gun is about to shoot a jumper. Sevika's arm eats Smeech's hat. This order of the symbols on her arm does nothing, since I guess that's not a win on her gambling arm. I'm pretty sure the Teemo's room is just a prank in the slot machine, and when you hit that, the arm does nothing. Which is a very Jinx-like thing to make such a prank weapon for Sevika, although I'm not sure what her idea behind it was, because if she wants Sevika to be on her side, she can kinda just die in the middle of the fight if she accidentally rolls the Teemo's room. The arm also stores punches as high scores on her arm, which makes her arm go crazy for a second. This combination makes her shoot shurikens, as we can see in the next scene, and those shurikens are actually the eyes of her hand. This combination makes her shoot fire from her arm, which also increases her high score. And this is the jackpot combination that ultimately kills Smeech. Also, at the end of the fight, she hits high score on her hand, which is 100, that results in fireworks. Also, all the liquid on Sevika is Chemtech fluid, just proving Smeech's body was completely augmented except his head. All the footprints that Victor sees are all in his head, made by the Arcane. Okay, this is just me spitballing here again. This path right here that Arcane is showing Victor is the path that Victor actually already took in the future. But Arcane is now showing it to Victor in the past. So this is already the path that Victor took. You get what I'm saying? Because here Victor is stepping exactly on top of the Arcane matter, making it his footprint. That would mean that the Arcane has time travel properties, which could possibly be the origin story for Echo. But I'll talk more about that later. We can see that Victor is glowing faintly again, hinting towards Arcane trying to control him. The Arcane has also corrupted Victor's staff. We didn't see any Arcane matter on it earlier in the episode, so the Arcane can spread on anything Victor touches. When Victor is cleansing Hug from his shimmer, all the metal nearby is merging with him, which also includes the knife he dropped earlier in the scene. Arcane explosion. Tiny detail that I found is that when Victor has cleansed Hug from his shimmer with his Jesus magic, he looks actually slightly younger as he did in Season 1, which could mean that the Arcane magic also didn't just cleanse him, it made him younger, or at least look younger. Here Arcane is again using Sky's image to use against Victor. They're portraying Sky as someone Victor is looking up to. This is also how he saw Sky multiple times throughout the series. He can't live with the fact that he accidentally killed Skye, so Arcane is giving him some false hope that everything he does is for her. Also, side note, not sure if you can be more saint looking as this frame right here with the spotlight even shining from the sky. In the ending scene, Singe testing on the blood cell is splitting the cell aggressively and replacing all the other cells in the blood, kinda like an extremely aggressive cancer or mutation. Which means he's trying to replace the blood completely from his patient, which is Warwick or, well, Vander. We can see some of the Warwick's tanks in one of the papers. And here is where it gets interesting. Singe is pumping his chemtech fluids into a heart, and as you can see, the heart is actually 2 hearts combined, so this is the Merc Wolf's heart we saw earlier. This means Warwick is not just a mutation of Vander, but a sort of Frankenstein monster that has been put together piece by piece of Merc Wolf and Vander. The protective mask reflects on Caitlyn's face again, as it did in episode 1, as she is going to be using it herself later on. I love all these tiny little details that Fortiche leaves in pretty much every single scene. Caitlyn also using the grey against the Undercity makes Caitlyn the complete opposite to her mother. Her mother wanted Zone to breathe, Caitlyn to suffocate. Here we can see the Strike Force presented as the boogeyman in the smoke again. In this scene we can see the effects of inhaling the grey, which destroys your nasal cavities to the point it's corroding the flesh. Also red eyes and bleeding from the nose, as we saw from Jinx. We can also see that Caitlyn basically did nothing else except revert all the ventilation systems. So the system doesn't trap the grey anymore, and instead it releases it. And here we can also see that indeed it was the Strike Force behind the attack on Margot's lair, trying to get intel on Jinx and dismantle the followers of Silco. They even attacked Cross's lair off screen. We can also see Caitlyn shooting his net gun, his in-game ability, on Cross and Margot, which could mean that the Strike Force handled the Gem Barons off screen. Jinx has booby traps in most of the vents, while she's trying to reverse the ventilation system as a revenge to Piltover and Caitlyn. From this frame, we can clearly see that Caitlyn's obsession with Jinx is getting out of hand, and she only feels anger and she'll do everything in her power to kill her. Small detail, but the song that plays in the background ends with "It's Judgment Day and no one can stop the rain." And in the next scene we can hear Caitlyn's mom echoing voice say, "They call it the Grey." Again implying that Caitlyn's mother was the savior of Zone and Caitlyn herself is the Judgment Day. Jinx has made dolls of all the Strike Force members with their fake guts hanging out. I want to point out that Maddie is the only one with her eye poking out, and Fortiche being the goats of foreshadowing that could be hinting towards Maddie maybe losing her eye. Is this complete schizoanalyzing? Yes it is. Like in the other intros, this one also has hidden frames in it that give glimpses of the episode. They are the Arcane Ball, fight between Jinx and Vi, and Caitlyn's new swag coat that she gets at the end. Hinot has actually seen Strike Force before at Margot's lair as the hallucinations. I guess he ran away from the lair off screen as he wasn't dead or caught. That is why Vi, that's so hard to say, that's why Vi also recognizes him instantly. As they're talking to Hinot, Caitlyn's trigger finger is getting closer and closer to the trigger, until Vi comes and sits next to Hinot, showing that Caitlyn's rage and emotions against Jinx and the Zonites are getting stronger and stronger, since she cannot even wait for Hinot to sneeze and keep talking about how Jinx got him in there. And all the other enforcers are clearly seeing Caitlyn's mental going down in front of them. And I also want to point out that she is fighting herself to not pull that trigger, as her trigger finger at the end of the scene was shaking. Caitlyn's dialogue has also been completely changed from her usually emotional dialogue to the emotionless, army-like authoritarian talk. Even Vi asking for a minute looks like it's getting between her goal of getting to Jinx. Ambessa's bodyguard has the item Kani Krukern from League of Legends, which is an anti-magic item. And that item is made with rune weaving, and that is why the color of the magic is green, like the sword that Riven has in League of Legends. Ambessa's wall is filled with weapons she has taken from the battles as a trophy. That's why some of the weapons seem to be broken, because they got destroyed in the battle against her. Amara spawns the knife she is holding from the actual black rose she had in her hand. The magic is also resembling the literal thorns of a rose. Amara's black rose burns as she dies, and the magic inside her disappears. This could also be a signaling mechanism for other Black Rose members that Amara has died. When Vi confronts Caitlyn about Jinx in the next scene, Caitlyn shows emotions for the first time since episode 1. And it's all because Vi told her she wants to finish Jinx for good. And Vi is not saying this because she wants to kill Jinx, but because Caitlyn does, to avenge her mother. Vi doesn't want Caitlyn to change, as she has kinda seen that throughout the act. She has seen Caitlyn getting more and more aggressive. Here, Caitlyn is finally falling back to her old self, just because Vi told her she wants to kill Jinx for the first time. And that then resulted in this scene that completely crashed Twitter. And now that I think about it, this scene is kinda fucked up when you think about the things that I just said. Also, don't care about them kissing, look at the wall design, god damn! Caitlyn no longer has the aggressive and assertive look on her face, and Vi kissed. Then she tries to lock in again. The shimmer brush used by Lest in this scene on Salo is the first time we see shimmer not being injected or orally consumed. I guess they have found a way to microdose shimmer to safely get high. Ambessa raises her nose about 4 pixels when Lest leaves the room, so she either hates Vastayan or knows that Lest is scheming something. Or it might be that I'm schizo-analyzing micro-expressions again. When Ambessa throws Salo, he smashes his head to the table and the wine glass very theatrically smashes to the ground, which again, I'm schizo-analyzing here, could foreshadow the possible death of Salo. The flags we saw in the first episode that a lot of people were thinking would be the flags for a new Progress Day were actually an advertisement for a theater act that has the Demacian King, Charon 4, in it. Forties really played us with that one. Also, Demacian architecture. Lest, the Vastayan that was helping Salo, making him high as hell, is smoking a shimmer-induced cigar. We can confirm it has shimmer in it by the small hint of purple in the highlights of their eyes. Jinx is harvesting the grey that Caitlyn's mom trapped in those pipes all those years ago. Although I think Jinx is using this specific pipe to tease and lure Caitlyn and Vi in. Because after all, she's crazy and she wants them to find her. In the next scene, Jay says, "Pass me the tome." Amplifying tome 100% confirmed lore accurate. Heimerdinger is holding his in-game League of Legends wrench in his hand. This underground temple that Caitlyn and Vi are going into is the place they use to pray for the wind spirit, Janna. In this scene, we can see that Mel has been hard working to figure out what looks to be some weird shippings. As we can see, she has underlined multiple log lines, and she has even wrote shimmer on the note. It is possible that Ambessa is using Salo to smuggle weapons of some sort to Piltover and also probably the last remnants of Shimmer, since we know he likes to get high on that. We can also see that the possible culprits are the same people who sent Caitlyn that letter in the first episode. The Medarda emblem is literally just Ambessa's mask. Kinda hardcore. Also, the text is Noxian calligraphy. Jinx has drawn Vander with her and Vi on one of the pillars. They also seem to be on the Bridge of Progress, as we can see from their, well, dead parents. She also drew Vi, or Violet, as very evil-like. I guess that's how she saw Vi after she left in season 1. Fun little detail, did you know that the gemstone mesh room Chase, Echo and Heimer are in is also the next Teamfight Tactics carousel location? We can also see that the room they are in is below 0 degrees Celsius because we can see their breath. Probably to prevent the mechanism from overheating, as I would assume something like this outputs a lot of energy. Kinda what they do with supercomputers in real life. This drop of blood is the same blood Victor coughed in season 1. It has been corrupted with Arcane and it has also corroded the metal underneath it. This has nothing to do with this particular scene, but did you know that Vi's eye color is called powder blue and Jinx's shimmer eye color is called red violet? Very cool detail, I gotta admit, for this you have outdone yourselves with the small little details. This is the same monkey bomb that killed Clagger and Milo in season 1. Jinx or Powder crying next to the body of Vander when he died. This smoke right here is referring to the flare Jinx used in season 1. Dead Milo and Clagger. Also, that portrait of Vi is probably her when she realized Jinx had killed them both. Also, the reflection doesn't really make any sense, but I guess that's just artistic freedom. And this is the theory I want to talk about earlier in this video. We can see the petal of the violet flower Caitlyn has connected to her mother with, which now actually reveals the symbolism in her dream sequence. This bothered me for so long because I couldn't really find the meaning behind the violet flowers falling to the ground and then dying in episode 1. There is this single little petal that drops when Caitlyn is about to take the shot. All the dead flowers symbolize the fact what happened when she didn't take the shot. Her mother dying. Every single petal in this scene symbolizes how many times Caitlyn has gone through the guilt of not taking the shot over and over again in her head. So yeah, I'm actually kinda proud of that one. Yippee! Runes coming out of the trail of the bullet, that's a cool detail. The shimmer in Jinx's blood activated. Jinx's minigun is so strong that it kicks Vi back a meter. Damn, what is she shooting her with? Like 50 cals? Jinx should also technically be flying backwards because of Newton's third law, so and yes, I know that's just artistic freedom and all that, but yeah, that should happen. Jinx's gun used Chemtech, as we can see from the green liquid. Jinx is actually scared of what Vi has turned into. When Caitlyn bites Sevika's hand, she seems to like it. Hey, I'm not judging. Jumper from League of Legends. Also, shimmer inside of Jinx is making her so fast, she's basically teleporting. Also here again, they're hinting at Arcane having time traveling properties, which, this is just my theory, I think that is how Echo gets his time travel abilities. Biblically accurate Heimer. When Jinx gets blasted by her own malfunctioning weapon due to the Hextech being inside of it, Vi catches her with an open hand, which would mean that even at this point she doesn't want to kill her, because she would have had the opportunity to hit her with a full fist here. We can also see it here. She's trying to push Jinx away while Jinx is trying to actually shoot her. And she also does shoot her in the cheek. In the next scene, we can also see in the slow motion that Vi is still hesitating, as we can see from her micro expressions. She still doesn't wanna hurt Jinx. When Chase hits the arcane ball with his hammer, the ball blows up like a butterfly, most likely referring to the butterfly Chase was woken up by in the Season 1 flashback. When all the Hextech guns malfunction again, we can see that it also affects Sevika's scar that she got from the explosion caused by powder, which was Hextech. The hit that blows up the pillar with powder and Violet on it cracks through Violet's heart. Now that is some good attention to detail. In the next fight scene, we can really see how Jinx and Vi are fighting. They aren't really trying to kill each other, especially not Vi. Caitlyn isn't just trying to watch them fight, but find an opening to shoot Jinx. The only reason why Caitlyn didn't hit her shot was because Vi tackled Jinx in the stomach, changing her position. The arcane bullet instantly cauterized the wound on Jinx's finger, or where there was a finger. The bullet also cracked the wall behind Jinx. Isha actually almost pulled the trigger, and Vi would have died if Caitlyn didn't shoot the gun off of Isha's hand. This shot right here wasn't a warning shot. If Vi didn't have her hand in the way, Caitlyn would have hit Isha and Jinx. Here, Caitlyn realizes that her and Vi's goals aren't the same anymore, and that she has yet again missed the shot. And that's why she looks so shocked. The canister that Jinx had installed into the pipes was actually a coloring that she used to turn the gray into colorful explosions. The Kiraman family had a secret tunnel to the ventilation systems, as we can see the enforcers climbing up from the windmill contraption. This is the same roof we saw Violet and Powder stand on in Season 1. The piece of rubble Caitlyn is smashing actually has an upside down face of Powder on it. Kind of funny as fuck if you ask me. In the next scene, we can see that Caitlyn's facial expression has gone from the emotional, sympathetic face back to the stone cold killer face, telling the viewers that indeed Caitlyn has changed, the thing that Vi feared the most. Here, Caitlyn smacks Vi with the same hilt she used to smack Powder's face with, meaning that to Caitlyn, Vi is just another Zonaite, just like Jinx. Her stone cold face also breaks here for a second though, meaning that she still regrets hitting her. And in this tree we can see violets that could be connected to Caitlyn's mother. I guess violets are growing in trees now, but this colored gray on the tree would symbolize that yes, Jinx has indeed done it again, and Caitlyn couldn't stop her. Before Mel gets kidnapped, we can for a second see the symbol of Black Rose in the roof. Cool little detail, but before the magic completely consumes her, we can see that her shadow is actually consumed before her. Not sure what that means, but it's just a cool little detail I noticed. When Ambessa is giving her speech, Shula really doesn't like the fact how close Ambessa and Salo seem to be, and probably also questions the legitimacy of Ambessa's fake story. Caitlyn puts more pressure on her hands, which makes a squeaking sound, telling us that Ambessa's story really riles her up with anger. And Loris behind her notices this as well. She also has her stone cold killer face back, now that Vi isn't there to ruin her plans. When Ambessa announces Caitlyn as the new general, Salo is confused, and the bodyguard is immediately ready to put him back down on his wheelchair, which could mean that initially Ambessa and Salo were planning to make him the general, as they did hang out a lot, but Ambessa's real plan actually involved giving Caitlyn that role. That's why the bodyguard was so ready to put Salo down on his wheelchair, because Ambessa told him beforehand that Salo could try to intervene. Also, Mrs. Bolbok. And then of course at the end we get to see that Ambessa was behind the attack in episode 1. Well played, Mr. Fortiche, with the foreshadowing. The bodyguard is giving Rennie the invite to the memorial. You can see that Step is visibly sad about the fact that Caitlyn is gonna be accepting this future role. Also, thanks to Twitter, we can see that this scene is a complete replica of Silco baptizing Jinx in season 1. Good catch, I would have never seen this. Oh yeah, and also we can see Singed pumping his own blood, not into Warwick, but a body on the ground that is most likely Vander's dead body being held alive by Singed blood. Maybe. And that's all the cool little details and Easter eggs I could find from Act 1. I will try to do this for every single act, but let me be honest, this one was a doozy. This one took me so long, and that's why I'm actually uploading it this late, but it was fun, super exhausting though, and if this video does well, I will indeed do more of this in the future as well for future episodes. So, subscribe if you want to know all the other cool details from future Arcane acts, and if there's actually something you caught that I missed, please let me know in the comments below, since I may do an even bigger video with those details. Also, I can't believe I just analyzed Arcane. Am I really just a budget Necrit?